Shalom, Wabaraka, Mispaka. Peace and blessings, family. In this video, I will be discussing the new covenant. Are we under a new covenant or are we still under an old covenant? First, I'm going to go to the new covenant, first I'm going to go to the New Testament, but New Testament does mean new covenant. First, we're going to go to the New Testament, and I'm going to see what it says. Then I'm going to go to the Old Testament, or the Tanakh, and see what it says. And then I'm going to compare the two. Then I'm going to find out which one we truly are under. So, we're going to go to the book of Hebrews in the New Testament, chapter 8, in verse 7. It says, "For if that first covenant had been faultless, then should no place have been sought for the second." So Paul's saying that old covenant had faults in it, had flaws, it had problems. So now we need a new covenant. Now we're going to go to the book. Now we're going to go to verse 13. We're still in Hebrews chapter 8, but now we're going to go to verse 13. It says, "In that he saith, a new covenant he hath made the first old. Now that which decayeth and waxeth away is ready to vanish away." So he's saying that old covenant is ready to vanish away, is ready to go away. Now we're under a new covenant. This is what the New Testament says, okay? From in the book of Hebrews, chapter 8, from verse 8 to verse 12, it just pretty much copies everything from Jeremiah 31, from Jeremiah chapter 31. And I'm going to get that afterwards. I'm going to go to Hebrews chapter 9, verse 15. And it says, "And for this cause, he is the mediator of the New Testament." The New Testament means new covenant. "That by means of death, for the redemption of transgressions that were under the first testament, they which are called might receive the promise of eternal inheritance." So Paul saying we are now under a new covenant because JC, who is the mediator of the new covenant, since he walked the earth and was put to death for our sins, since he did all that, we are now under a new covenant. But we're still in the book of Hebrews. We're going to go to chapter 12 and verse 24. And it says, "And to JC, the mediator of the new covenant, and to the blood of sprinkling that speaketh better things than that of Abel." So here he says JC is the mediator of the new covenant, meaning as soon as he walked the earth, as soon as he was put to death for our sins, he is now the mediator of the new covenant, which means we are under a new covenant now. But now we're going to go to the old covenant. We're going to go to the Old Testament in the book of Jeremiah, chapter 31 and verse 31. And it says, "Behold, the days come, saith Yah, that I will make a new covenant with the house of Israel and with the house of Yehudah." Verse 32, "Not according to the covenant that I made with their fathers in the day that I took them by the hand to bring them out of the land of Mitzrayim, which my covenant they did break, although I was a husband unto them, saith Yah." So it says, I'm going to make a new covenant with Israel. But it's not going to be like the covenant that I made with them when I brought them out of the land of Egypt. Because that covenant they broke. And they kept getting punished for it. I'm going to make a covenant where I give them the law and they cannot break it. And they cannot get punished for it. Look at this. Verse 33. And it says, "But this shall be the covenant that I will make with the house of Israel in those days, saith Yah. I will put my Torah, my law, in their inward parts, and write it in their hearts. And I will be their Elohim, and they shall be my people." So Yah said in the new covenant, he will put his Torah, his law, inside of us. And he will put his Torah inside of our hearts. Our heart is our mind. So that means, you know how our heart beats? Boom, 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 boom. We cannot control that, right? We cannot make our heart stop beating. We cannot control it. It's involuntary, right? So that's how we're going to be keeping his Torah in the new covenant. According to y'all said during the new covenant, we will not be able to break his laws because his law will be in our heart. His law will be in our inward parts, and we will do them no matter what, and we cannot break them. It's going to be like our heart beating. So, and it says in verse 34, and they shall teach no more every man his neighbor, and every man his brother, saying, Know Yah, for they shall all know me, from the least of them unto the greatest of them, saith Yah. So it says, so Yah said, when the new covenant comes, everyone will know me, from the least of people until the greatest of people. Yah said everyone on earth will know him. Everyone on earth will worship him. Everyone on earth will know his law. Everyone on earth will keep the law, and they will keep it by heart, and they will not have to teach no one. No one will be teaching anyone. If we were truly under a new covenant, I would literally not be making this video right now, because I would not be teaching you. Because he says, every man shall not teach his neighbor. No one will teach anybody. No one will need to teach anybody, because we will already know. It's like me teaching you the law. If we were under a new covenant, it's like me teaching you how to make your heart beat. You don't need to know how to make your heart beat, because your heart's already beating and you cannot control it. It's an involuntary action. If we were truly under a new covenant, we would literally be keeping the law, and we cannot control it. That's what he means by he will put it in our hearts and in our inward parts, and no one will teach anyone. Every man will know it. Okay, so that's pretty cut and dry. So the New Testament says we are under a new covenant, but the words of Yah, our true Elohim, say we're not under a new covenant. We're still under an old covenant, because look, I'm teaching you. Look, you might have messed up yesterday. You might have sinned yesterday. So if we can still sin, if I'm teaching you, we're not under a new covenant. If we keep sinning and we turned away from the Torah, you will still be put to death for that eventually. So we can't be under a new covenant. And with that, I would like to say Shalom wa barakah, Misfakah.